Alright, what's going on YouTube? We're back with some more Baldur's Gate 3 mods videos. I appreciate your patience. This time we're taking a look at another monk subclass called Way of the Spectral Storm. This is a subclass that is a mid-range damage dealer, dealing damage with both lightning and thunder damage, with a little bit of off healing, and we'll kind of explain a little bit of healing a little bit later on. This is a level 3 subclass, so obviously you'll lock it at level 3 of monk. At level 3, you'll get an increase of health as obvious, the typical class features, and then you'll get some new actions. The first one is Storm Fist, which is a sort of cantrip that allows you to throw a punch that does thunder damage. It's a long-range punch, pretty strong, and does pretty good damage as you level up. The second one is Spectral Sword, which is where we go into the off-healing. It grants an ally 10 temporary hit points. They also deal additional 2 points of cold damage with attacks. This lasts for 5 turns, and it uses 2 key points, and it is a bonus action. You'll get another use of Misty Step. This time it's Misty Step that you can use with the key point, so if you don't have a class or anything like that that has Misty Step, it's a pretty strong spell to allow you to teleport around the map. And it uses key points, so you can use this resource more sparingly, sort of like you can use with regular spell slots. You also get Air Render. This is a cold damage attack. It does pretty good amount of damage as a ranged attack. Causes, I think, 2 turns of bleed, if I'm reading this correctly. I'm sorry, Gaping Wounds, which is essentially like bleed, that does piercing damage for 2 turns. Pretty strong, does 3 to 30. I think this also levels up as you get stronger as well. Wind Tunnel, this is a thunder damage attack, long range, that allows you to cause, I believe this is, let me see what this is exactly, off balance. So causes off balance for 2 turns, uses 2 key points. So these are very low costing spells, but they do a good amount of damage. And then we have Flurry of Storms, which is essentially like Flurry of Fist, but it does thunder damage. You don't get the other benefits of like Flurry of Fist, I think is what it's called, but you'll get the same benefits of using it as a bonus action, does thunder damage, and uses a key point. At level 4, we get a new action. This is Quickened Healing. It does 5 to 10 healing. Pretty decent overall. We get more typical monk features. And then, as far as abilities go, Dexterity and Wisdom will probably be the 2 I'll focus on. Obviously, Dexterity for your unarmed attacks and attacks with quarterstaffs, and then Wisdom for your other abilities that deal magic, such as Thunder, Cold, Lightning, so on and so forth. At level 5, we get our standard actions here. We do get a new subclass feature called Spectral Storm Weaving. After casting one of your Spectral Storm abilities that costs action, you may make an attack without expending an action. So this is actually pretty cool because you can use the start of your turn to use one of your Spectral Storm abilities, and you can still attack without using an action slot, which essentially gives you the ability to attack again, and I believe attack one more turn, because you actually do get extra attacks. So I believe in one turn you can get 2 to 3 attacks. So pretty strong, especially early on at level 5. At level 6, we get a new subclass feature, other with in the typical class features here. New subclass, Spectral Synergy. When you apply Spectral Sword or Spectral Armor to a creature with the opposing status, they gain temporary HP. The temporary HP points are increased to 22 temporary hit points. So basically, if you use Spectral Sword and then Spectral Armor within like the 2 turns, you'll get a larger increase of your temporary hit points, which is actually really strong. So you can definitely save a lot of people from death. This is why it's really more so of an off heal, simply because it does cost a key points and it only lasts temporarily, but you can really get strong with this class. You get 3 new actions. The first one is Channel Spectral Storm. Regain half your key points, gain 3 lightning charges, and 22 temporary hit points. This lasts for 5 turns, and I believe you get 3 lightning charges for 3 turns. It is an action. And then you enter Spectral Storm Attunement, which Spectral Storm Attunement, you gain 2 lightning charges each turn. If the status is removed by taking damage, it causes an explosion of lightning. Essentially, it'll cause an explosion of lightning around you, doing damage to all enemies around you. The second ability that you get is called Spectral Armor. This grants 17 healing. Grant allies in the area 17 temporary hit points. Creatures who hit them with the melee attack take cold damage. This uses action points and 2 key points. This is, again, very good just to use that ability at the probably start of your turn around your allies. And then with the subclass feature, if you use something else such as Spectral Sword, you'll get an even bigger increase of hit points as well. And then the last ability, we get Storm Fury. Blast creatures in the area with lightning, forcing them towards the caster. So this essentially does an area of effect attack with lightning, and it forces them to attack you. And with the monk class, you kind of want to take a little bit of the brunt of the action, because you do have pretty good stats in terms of overall defense and dexterity. At level 7, we just get the typical normal monk upgrades. Same thing here. At level 8, we get a new feat, and we're just going to top this off to get to level 20 on our dexterity. At level 9, we get some more class features, then we get one more action. This action here is Spectral Guardian. Summon a ghastly storm spirit to fight at your side. This is actually really cool because you can play this solo, and then you'll have a Spectral Guardian, which actually does have some ability as well. We'll go over that once we show off the actual abilities. A level 10, typical subclass typical monk class feature, so nothing really to explain. At level 11, we get this typical health increase in class feature, and now we get a new action called Spectral Ward. Grant up to 3 allies 32 temporary hit points. They are protected from death the next time they would take damage, or take damage that reduced them to 0 hit points. It remains conscious with 1 hit point. So essentially, this is Death Ward, but also gives you increase of hit points. Temporary HPs are increased to 52 temporary hit points if creatures have either Spectral Sword or Spectral Armor, and increased to 62 if they have both. So you can see you can really get a lot of temporary hit points if you spend a lot of your key points supporting your team rather than doing damage with your team. So you can get some really, really strong hit points to make your tanks even more tankier. At level 12, we get our last feature here, and if you want to skip the level 13 to 20 process, you can and go to the time slot, which shows off the abilities here, or you can stay for the 13 to 20 process. I know not everyone uses the 13 through 20 mods as I do, so you can skip that if you like. Since we have our dexterity up, what I like to do is probably get something like Savage Attacker, or if we're just dealing strictly with our stats, Ability Improvement's also good to get our wisdom up, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Savage Attacker. At level 13, we still get the typical upgrades here. Level 14, same thing here, nothing really new with the subclass. Same thing with level 15. Level 16, we get another feat here, so we just do ability improvement. Level 17. And then 18, we get a new action here, which is Empty Body. We become invisible and get resistant to all types of damage but force damage. I believe this is just typical of the level 13 to 20 process, so this doesn't really have much to do with the subclass. Level 19, we get our last feat, which at this point is just more adapt to your playstyle. Tough is usually pretty good, so to tip out your overall constitution and hit points. As you can see here, now we have 174 hit points versus having 134. So that's pretty strong if you really don't have anything else to put into. You can also do ability improvement to get your wisdom up to 16, or you can use an item to get it up to 20. There's plenty of items in the game that do so. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and go with tough to give myself that boost of hit points. And at level 20, we get our last feats here. Sorry, not feats. Our last increase and our last class features. Alright, so down below we have our abilities. We're going to go ahead and take a quick look at them. So the first one is Wind Tunnel. This takes 2 key points. And we got the key field attack, so that's pretty cool. So you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action this time. So as I mentioned earlier, once you use an ability, you can use an attack as a bonus action, so you're not wasting an actual action. Flurry of Storms, which again is like Flurry of Blows. Very similar. Cool thing about this is that you can actually use this at range, so you don't have to commit to actually going in close to enemy, which is really, really cool. So that's what makes it a little bit stronger than Flurry of Blows. Yeah, you get the bludgeoning damage flat out, but you have the option of doing range damage. And next up we have Storm Fist, which is our essentially our cantrip, which is very similar to Flurry of Blows. Just a long-range punch. Alright, Spectral Armor. Now, we're going to actually have to summon an ally for this, so give me 1 second. Alright, so we just made a quick companion here, so we can show off a couple of these other abilities. Spectral Sword, granted ally 83 temporary hit points. As you can see, they have the temporary hit points. Now, this only lasts for 5 turns. I was going to show that it only lasts for 5 turns. It also gives them cold damage on their weapon. So if we go over, we see that their weapon does additional 1 point of cold damage. So it's not very strong in terms of like the damage, but I think the biggest thing is like the temporary HP buff here. And so we're going to show like how this all combines together with some of the other abilities that you get as well. So we'll let this run out here. And as you can see, they lose the temporary hit points. So it may seem strong at first, but it isn't something that you can just use all the time. So we'll use Spectral Sword. And now we're going to combine that with Spectral Armor, which is a wide range attack, so you can use this on multiple allies if they're lined up together. As you can see, because I use both Spectral Sword and Spectral Armor, they have a much higher increase of overall temporary hit points. And if we use Spectral Ward, that increases even more. So you can use these abilities together to combine and actually increase the hit points of a lot of your allies. Now, this does drain your key points very significantly, so it is sort of like a risk versus reward. Do you use your key points to buff your allies and keep them strong to let them do the frontline damage, or do you use them for things such as Fury of Storms, Wind Tunnel, things of that nature? We also have the, I'll go ahead and go a little rest here.
Better than nothing.
So we have the Spectral Guardian, which summons the Djinn. And this Djinn actually has some abilities as well, which is pretty cool. They both have the Spectral Sword and the Spectral Armor. Now, the difference between us and the Djinn is that they can only use these abilities as once per short rest, while we can use them as long as we have key points. They also do have other abilities, such as Shifting Winds, Ray of Frost, Toll of the Dead, Ice Storm, and Phantasmal Killer. So we really don't need to showcase these. Excuse me. But we can show Spectral Sword here. We can use it on ourselves, and then of course we have Spectral Armor. And that's just to show that you can use it in multiple allies, and we do get those temporary hit points as well. So the Djinn's actually pretty cool. So if you wanted to use the Djinn to give like a very tough battle, to use those abilities instead of using your hit point, I'm sorry, not your hit points, but your key points, you can do that as well. And just now to showcase the rest of the abilities, we have Quick and Healing. Pretty standard, just does some quick healing. And then we have, Storm's Fury. As you can see, if we use it with our allies in tow, they'll be dragged to us, so we'll get a little bit closer here.
Still alive, so that's broken.
As you can see, because they failed the saving throw, they got lifted towards us, more or less. And then we have Channel Spectral Storm. Regain half your key points, gain 3 lightning charges and 83 temporary hit points. This can be used once per long rest. And so we have the lightning charges, which we're going to try and do here. That's maybe a little hard to do, so I'm trying just to show like the drain of the lightning charges, but that'd kind of be a little hard to showcase here. But anyway, more to the point, if we actually lose the lightning charges for whatever reason, like we get stunned or anything like that, it will cause a area of effect of lightning damage. We can sit here all day and not try to do that, but it's gonna take a hot minute. And at this point, I'd just be kind of like just swinging away until I eventually run out of the charges here. I can try and do it here before the turns run out, but I doubt that's gonna happen. Any case, we'll try and showcase this in the combat scenario.
What to do?
And that's gonna be all really the abilities other than air render. So that'll be the last one we show off before we go into the combat scenario. As you can see, it does affect the gaping wounds. We'll go a little bit farther just so you can kind of see the effect itself. A good long range effect. Does a pretty good amount of damage. It only costs 2 key points, so very low costing spell for something that does a pretty good amount of damage and cold damage. So in any case, we're going to go ahead and go into the combat scenario. If you didn't want to watch that, this is the end of the video, and I do appreciate you guys watching, liking the video, subscribe if you haven't, all that typical YouTube stuff, and I will be back with more videos. Take care.
At the ready. Survival is all that matters. Another step forward. Where do I go from here? Breathe deep and move. go. Light on my feet. May the gods take you first. On my way. Well, so much for peace. These boots have seen everything. Another day, another fight.